let's see, what were we doing? Oh, we were solving. Okay, so we solved rational expressions. Good. And then we did an absolute value equation. All right. So today, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, we have a question in the chat. I updated Windows. Now I can't hear anything. The only thing I can say to try Eunice is in the lower, like when you move your mouse on over the Zoom window, in the lower left hand corner, there's gonna be like I forget what it is. Let me see here. Oh, it's a microphone. So try clicking on the up arrow. It's like the exponent of the microphone. Click on that. See, make sure that those speakers are selected. And if that doesn't work, then let's see here. Let me share this screen. If that doesn't work, you might have to come down here in the right hand corner and right click and select one of these. I think it's going to be sound settings. Yeah. So whenever this loads here, make sure that your output device is selected properly and your input device is selected properly as well. Okay? That's like really the only help I can give you right now without actually stopping class and having you share your screen so I can look at it and everything. All right? So let's go share the other screen now. All right, so there are going to be a couple problems where you just have to solve for a variable, okay? So the problem that you guys already saw here listed. Come on, zoom in, there we go. Is dx plus gy equals k. Solve for x. So notice the first term is that is the term that contains the variable x. So all I'm going to do is move everything that does not contain an x to the opposite side. So I will subtract gy from both sides. That's going to yield dx equals k minus gy. And then, since I'm solving for x, I just divide everything by d. So x equals k minus gy all over d. All right. Any questions with that? All right. Oops. So if you think about it, all the different types of equations, linear, quadratic, rational, absolute value, the only one that we really didn't look at yet was a linear inequality. So we're going to go ahead and do the linear inequality right now. So let's solve. 1/4 times the quantity, x plus 4, is less than 1/5 times the quantity, 2x plus 3. All right, and we're going to write our answer in interval notation. All right, so all I'm going to do is just rewrite the problem. And from here, it's a linear inequality. Now, the key is linear. So I know I can follow those steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the denominators, and I'm going to multiply everything by 20. Okay? Now, do me a favor and go ahead and solve that from there. I'm going to be right back. All right, sorry, I'm back. All right, what do we get? Nobody got anything yet? All right, well, I guess we'll just do it then. I hope you can hear me, right? Can you guys hear me? All right, everybody can hear me. So, I'm going to multiply everything by 20 because that's going to eliminate denominators. So do that first. 20 divided by 4 is 5 times 1 times x plus 4. I mean, that's what happens. Is less than. 20 divided by 5 is 4 times 1 times 2x plus 3. Remember, as soon as you decide what you're going to multiply to eliminate denominators, eliminate the denominators. Don't wait to do that. Don't distribute the 1/4. Don't distribute the 1/5, which some of us might have done. I mean, it's not wrong, but what you've done is you've introduced fractions everywhere. So at the very start, remember your steps. Now, 5 times 1 is 5. X plus 4, or times the quantity x plus 4. 4 times 1 is 4, times the quantity 2x plus 3. Now I see parentheses. Now I distribute. So I get 5x plus 20 is less than or equal to. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just less than. Sorry, just less than. 8x plus 24. Now I'm going to go ahead and group my like terms. So I'll subtract 5x from both sides. That gives me 20 is less than 3x plus 24. Now I'm going to add 20. Oh, sorry. I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. Wait, 12. Sorry, 4 times 3 is 12. So I subtract 12 from both sides. 20 minus 12 is 8, is less than 3x. Divide both sides by the number in front of the variable. And you get 8 over 3 is less than x. Now, I personally don't like to write it like that. Remember, I like the variable first, number second. I just remember that my inequality is pointing to the number. So I'll rewrite it, and I make sure that the inequality is pointing to the number. So this is x is greater than 8 over 3. Now we want the answer in interval notation. Sometimes it's good just to draw it in terms of a graphing. And we can see that this is parenthesis. 8 is greater than, or 8 over 3, comma, positive infinity. Are there any questions with that? Did anybody not do it this way? Did you distribute the 1/4 and the 1/5? You're moving too fast. Remember, step 1, if you see fractions, multiply by a number or multiply by the LCD to remove denominators. Now, Courtney, to be honest with you, even if you distributed and you did all of your math correctly, you're still going to get the same answer. In other words, your move is not incorrect. It's just you're making the problem more difficult. Oh, yeah, you added more steps. Absolutely. Okay? All right, so for the next couple problems here, I have to... I think that looks good. I'm just going to drag our window over here because I want to make sure that we understand how to do this. So what's the smallest I can do this? I guess like that. And then move this over here. And what I'm going to have to do is just figure out. Okay, there we go. All right, so graph the linear equation by finding and plotting intercepts. Negative x plus 5, y, equals 5. And they want intercepts. So we know at an x-intercept, y is always equal to 0. At a y-intercept, x is always equal to 0. So all you have to do is substitute in 0 in the appropriate variable to find the appropriate intercept. Remember, x-intercept, y is equal to 0. So you get negative x equals 5. Now you have a number in front of the variable. It's negative 1. So we divide both sides by negative 1 to give me negative 5, 0 for our x-intercept. We do the same thing now for the y-intercept. It's just we make the appropriate substitution. So I have 5y equals 5, because the x goes away, it's 0. Divide both sides by 5. You get y equals 1. So your intercept is 0, 1. Now, just to refresh our memories, how do we actually input our solution? We click to enlarge a graph. We use the line segment tool, all right, which is second column, first row. And if you notice in the upper right-hand corner, so like right here where my mouse is moving, hopefully you can see that. As I move, it tells me what point I'm on. And I just be careful about where I click. Negative 5, 0, and then 0, 1. Once I'm done, I hit save. It saves my answer. And then I would just go ahead and click on to the next problem. And that's it. So speaking of the next problem, graph the linear equation y equals 2. What type of problem is that? Or better yet, what type of line is that? Does it have a slant? Does it have a slope? Is it a horizontal line, or is it a vertical line?
It's horizontal.
It's excellent. It's horizontal. April, where is it a horizontal? Like where specifically?
On the y-axis for 2.
Good. So go down to the y-axis. Use your line segment tool. Click. Oh, wrong one. So let's cancel. All right. But I need a horizontal line. April, does it matter if I move left or right for my next point?
No.
What's the only thing that matters? Left or right doesn't matter, but there is something that does matter.
So up and down.
I don't want to move up and down at all. I want to make sure that no matter where I go, left or right, y always equals 2. If you look in that little yellow bar where it says click the graph to plot the second point, no matter where I move, the x values change, but the y values do not. So it doesn't matter what your second point is, just as long as y always equals 2. All right? Are there any questions there? Okay, so we got a couple word problems. So if I were a betting person, these are probably going to be the word problems you would see. All right. So we have a 23-inch piece of steel is cut into 3 pieces. And they even gave us a nice little picture here. All right. So the first piece is X. That second piece is 2X. And the third piece is 2X plus 4X. So when we read this, we should see all of that outlined in the verbiage or the wording of the problem. So a 23-inch steel or piece of steel is cut into 3 pieces so that the second piece is twice as long as the first piece, and the third piece is 2 inches more than 4 times the length of the first. Find the pieces. All right, now, when I'm looking at this problem, they definitely told me some information about the second piece. And they definitely told me some information about the third piece. What is the only piece that they really never defined?
The first.
Yeah, they never said anything about the first piece. That never came up. All we know is the second piece is 2 times the length of the first, and the third piece is 2 inches more than 4 times the first. But they never told me what the first piece is. Because if you think about it, if I knew what the first piece is, I would already know all the other ones. So we're going to let x equal the length of the first piece. All right. Now, here's what else I know. I know the total length is 23 inches. So from the start to the end is 23 inches. Which means, and if I'm just going to write this out so you can see it, the first piece plus the second plus the third, they all have to equal the total. So all you have to do is just add up all these pieces. X plus 2x plus 2 plus 4x equals 23. From here, we have a linear equation because all the variables are raised to the first power. So I'm going to group all my... sorry, I'm moving too fast. I don't see any fractions. I don't see any parentheses. So I'm going to group all my like terms on the left-hand side. So let's see here. X plus 2x is 3x plus 4x is 7x. Plus 2 equals 23. Now, I will get the variable terms on one side, constant terms on the opposite side. So you get 7x equals 21. Divide both sides by 7. X equals 3. Now, that is the length of the first piece. Okay, that is the length of the first piece. And since this is measured in inches, the first piece all the way at the top of your screen in the upper right-hand corner is 3 inches. The second piece has to be 6 inches. Okay? And then the third piece is going to be 4 times 3, which is 12, plus 2 is 14 inches. Because if you look at the problem, they want you to type it in. So 3 inches. And notice they give you 2 options, inches or inches squared. You are finding the length of each piece. Length is a one-dimensional unit. In other words, length is like a perimeter. So it's only inches. Also, another thing that kind of tells you it's inches, well, 2 things. First, in the problem, it uses the word inch. But more importantly, you are adding. And if you think about perimeter is nothing more than adding the lengths of something. Area is multiplication. We didn't multiply anything. We're just finding the pieces and adding them up. Okay? Any questions with that? All right, good. Don't care about that. Let's see. Oh, we always like this problem. 3 good friends are in the same algebra class. Maybe 3 good friends are in the same algebra class today. Maybe not. Their scores on a recent test are 3 consecutive odd integers whose sum is 231. Find each score. Use commas to separate your answers. So, how do we find 3 consecutive odd integers? Well, I think the easiest thing to do first is figure out, okay, well, what are 3 consecutive odd integers? First, you need 3 of them. Second, they have to be consecutive, meaning back to back to back. Third, they're odd. So, I'm just going to guess. There are 3 consecutive odd integers, 1, 3, and 5. Now, I know 1 plus 3 plus 5 is not 231. So I guess I can try to guess again. How about I guess a little bit higher? How about 50? How about 51, 53, and 55? Well, if I were to add all 3 of these up, five and 3 is 8 plus 1 is 9, and that's going to be 15. Well, that's 159. So if I wanted to, I can just keep guessing. But that's kind of dumb. Remember, we want to work smarter, not harder. So, when you think about 3 odd consecutive integers, the first thing you need to think of is, well, how do I get from one integer to the next? In other words, how do I get from 1 to 3? You add 2. And how do you get from 3 to 5? You add 2 again. Now, here's the beautiful part about this problem. This is what makes it so easy yet so difficult. You need to ask yourself, what did they even tell me about the scores? Nothing. They told you nothing. Like Willy Wonka in a chocolate factory, you get nothing. Okay? So here's what you do. You sit back and go, well, since you gave me nothing about any of the scores, I'll make the first score X. Because I don't know anything about it. That's my first score. But what I do know is in order for me to get the next odd score, I have to take the first score, so I'm going to do this, and add 2 to it. So that X, now I'm going to erase a little bit above, that X is your first score. You have no idea what it is. The second score is going to be X plus 2. And then the third score is going to be X plus 2 or X plus 4. So, the problem is telling us if we add up these scores, they have to equal 231. So once again, it's linear because all of the variables are raised to the first power. They all have an exponent of, they all have an exponent of 1. I see no fractions. I see no parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and group my like terms. I get 3x plus 6 equals 231. Okay? Now, I'm going to get my variable terms on one side, constant terms on the other side. 231 minus 6 is 225. And now I divide both sides by the number in front of the variable. 225 divided by 3 is 75. So the first score is 75. Then the second score is 77. And the third score is 79. Because they're going to want all 3 scores. Did you like my Willy Wonka reference? The new Willy Wonka movie with Johnny Depp is good, but it's not as good as the first one. Gene Wilder? Is that his name? Fantastic in it. You get nothing. That was a pretty good part of the movie. Anyways, are there any questions? All right, we'll move on. Okay, so this last problem, I know it looks confusing. It's actually a very easy problem We just need to understand what it's really asking. Okay? So let me zoom up here a little bit. So this says, graph the linear equation in two variables using the two different range settings given. Determine which setting shows all the intercepts of the line. Now, what they're really talking about is this, and let me show you. All right. So what they're really telling us is to use our calculator, all right? They want us to graph 7x plus 49. And they want you to graph it. Just like what I just did. Here's the issue. Number one, not everybody has access to this calculator. And I get that. You all have access to Desmos, but maybe some of us don't even know how to change the window in Desmos. This problem is so much easier than you think it is. So let's really take a step back and let's really ask ourselves, what are they asking us to find? So can somebody tell me, what are they asking me to do first? What are they asking me to do first?
Graph?
No, they are not. Graphing could be part of it, but that's not what they're asking me to do. They're telling you to graph, but what are they asking me to find? Make sure you read the whole problem before you answer.
Find the intercept?
Find the intercepts. They're saying use a calculator to find these intercepts. Now, there is one thing that I do have to show you. So what is our 7x plus 49? Okay. So don't worry about this. Y equals 7x plus 49. Okay? So, in setting A, those numbers are your x interval. These numbers are your y interval. Okay? So that means if I were to use setting A, I would go from negative 10 to positive 10 on the x-axis, but then the y-axis would be negative 10 to 20. Now, look at our problem. Y equals 7x plus 9. What do we know about that equation? First, what form is it in? I'm so glad we're going over this problem. What form is that in? It has a special name.
I'm going to guess point slope.
No, you're close though. April, you're very close. It's not, if it's not point slope, it has to be the other one. What's the other one called? I mean, say that again, I'm sorry. Slope intercept. Slope intercept form. I mean, think about what you're given. There's your slope. There's your y-intercept, 0, 49. Come on, floater. All right. Now, let's go back to the problem. Let's read it one more time so we understand what they're asking. And then hopefully this just clicks. I'm hoping. They want us to determine which setting shows all the intercepts. So far, this first one, setting A, will not show all of them. Why? This is, do you truly understand how to graph points? That's what this question is asking you. Why will setting A fail? Question: what is the y-intercept? What is it?
49, something way higher than that.
Thank you. 0,49 would be all the way up here. And if your intervals only go from -10 to 10 for the x and -20 for the y, you are not going to see the y-intercept. Now, look at setting B. Setting B goes from -10 to 10. That's the same. But your y interval now goes from -10 all the way up to 50. And we know the y-intercept is going to be right here at 0,49. So that is how I know setting B wins. Now, I don't know if you have access to the graphing calculator. I don't. But what I do know is you do have Axos. Is that even a word? But what I do know is you have access to Desmos. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Right now in Desmos, and everybody should be seeing it on their screen right now. All right? So if you wanted to, you can write some of this information down. But if you just go to Desmos and you look at it, look at the x values. They go from -10 on the left to +10 on the right. Even if you were to take this double arrow and hide, all it did is just stretch it out a little bit. It still goes from -10 to +10. Now, your y values go from -6 to +6. So what I'm going to do is type in our equation, y equals 7x plus 49. And we can clearly see the x-intercept here. What we can't see is that y-intercept. Here's how you change the viewing window in Desmos. See that little wrench? It says graph settings. If you click on it, right here, you got check mark x-axis, check mark y-axis. Notice the check mark for the x-axis. It says -10 to 10. And x is in between there. Directly below it, the y-axis is -6 point numbers, +6 point numbers. Just highlight this and change it. -10 to 50. And then you could just click on it to get rid of it. And there you can see both points now. All right? Or you could just zoom in and out like that with your mouse. Could have showed you that. But it doesn't give you the window. You want the window. Whatever. All right? The key to this problem is understanding points. And if you look at this, 0,49 is our y-intercept. You're not going to see that here. You only see it in the second. Oh, I guess, well, in this case, it's going to be whatever. It's going to be 10,50 is where you're looking. All right? Are there any questions? Yes, no, maybe so. I mean, you got to ask now. All right. This last one, the graph of the following equation is a line. Use a graphing utility to graph it. I mean, if you know how to graph this, you don't even need a graphing utility. So let me minimize this a little bit. Let me get out this guy again. There we go. So, like I said, if you know how to graph, you're fine. 2x equals 3y. I'm going to get this into slope-intercept form. That's the y equals mx plus b. So, divide both sides by 3. You get 2/3 x equals y, or y equals 2/3. Oh, you can't see what I'm writing. My bad. Sorry. So, 2x equals 3y. I divided both sides by 3. And I just wrote it as y equals 2/3 x. From here, my y-intercept is 0, 0. My slope is 2 over 3. And remember, you plot the y-intercept first. And then you use your slope to determine the next point. So that's what your line looks like. Let's see if I can. No, I can't shift it over. Okay. Are there any questions there so far? All right, because I'm going to move the window over. So if you got this graph drawn, A and D are definitely out of the question because they both have negative slopes. Our slope is positive. B and C are the only two solutions are possible. We know our y-intercept was 0, 0. That's here in letter B. Letter C, it doesn't even go through the origin. So the only possible solution is letter B. That's it. So with that being said, let me get rid of all this junk.